In 2012, inside a quiet dorm at the University of North Carolina, a night that began with laughter slowly unfolded into one of the most disturbing mysteries the campus had ever seen. A young woman sensed she was being watched long before anyone believed her. Faith Hedges began her day like countless others, walking through the warm-lit corridors of her dorm, carrying her notes and the determined calm of a dedicated student. Across campus, the morning sun touched the brick pathways as she studied with her close friend, Karina, exchanging soft jokes and moments of comfort that made university life feel stable and predictable. Later, Faith settled into the quiet refuge of the library. The soft rustling of pages, the gentle glow of desk lamps, and the peaceful isolation wrapped around her as she reviewed her notes, unaware that the night ahead would shift everything. By evening, she and Karina joined the lively energy outside a student club. Music spilled into the street, neon lights flickered across the pavement, and laughter carried into the night. For a moment, everything felt carefree. But when they returned to the dorm, something had changed. The building seemed unusually still, but kind of silence that didn't soothe but unsettled. Faith felt it immediately, a subtle pressure in the air, a quiet tension she couldn't explain. After Karina fell asleep, Faith continued to study, but the uneasiness kept tugging at her thoughts. She stepped into the hallway, hoping to clear her mind, but the deeper the silence became, the more her instincts tightened. The dorm didn't just feel empty, it felt aware. She walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and stood for a moment in the humming fluorescent light, trying to shake the uncomfortable feeling. But it followed her back to the room, like a shadow she couldn't escape. Even Karina stirred, sensing something off. Later that night, a faint sound drifted through the hallway. Small, but wrong. She froze, listening closely. The sound came again. She stepped outside. The hallway stretched long and quiet until her eyes adjusted to the darkness. At the far end, a silhouette, motionless, watching. A cold wave of fear surged through her. She hurried to the elevator, her hands shaking as she pressed the button. Just before the doors closed, she saw the figure still standing perfectly still, as if waiting. Floor after floor, the unease followed her. Each corridor looked unfamiliar, every shadow sharper than the last. Her mind raced, but her instincts were louder. Something was wrong. She rushed down the stairwell into the lobby, hoping someone would be awake. But the building was empty, filled only with the low hum of lights and the echo of her own breathing. She stepped outside, the night air hitting her sharply, grounding her for a moment. Minutes later, Karina emerged from the dorm entrance, finding Faith pale, trembling, and unable to fully explain what she had seen. Together they returned inside, whispering urgently, trying to make sense of the strange presence that seemed to move within the dormitory walls. Back in their room, the tension did not fade. It lingered in the corners, pressed softly against the windows, and settled into the silence between their sentences. Somewhere in the building, something moved. Quiet, patient, watching. The night had started like any other, but Faith felt the truth deep inside. This was only the beginning. As the night went on, the tension in the dorm room kept growing. Faith sat on the floor beside her bed, trying to calm her breathing, but the unease wouldn't leave her. Even the soft lamplight felt too dim, too weak to push away the fear tightening in her chest. Karina stood quietly by the window, staring into the darkness outside. Neither of them spoke, but both understood something was wrong, deeply wrong. Faith picked up her phone with shaking hands, and Karina moved closer, hoping for answers, but none came. The silence in the building felt heavier than ever. When Faith opened the door just enough to look into the hallway, her heart froze. At the far end stood the same dark silhouette, unmoving, watching. She shut the door instantly, panic surging. Karina tried calling for help, but no one answered. The hallways, usually full of late-night noise, were now completely silent. Minutes passed slowly. Every sound in the dorm room seemed amplified. A distant creak, a faint hum, the soft vibration of Faith's breath. On the flickering security feed, the shadow appeared again, slightly closer, never fully visible. Faith backed away from the door, terrified. Karina paced the room, checking the lock again, even though she knew it was still secure. Fear wrapped tightly around them. Faith curled into a corner with a blanket, eyes wide and trembling. Karina stood beside her, phone pressed to her ear, hoping someone would pick up. And in the hallway, something shifted. Not loud, just enough to remind them they were not alone. Karina stepped away from the window, shaken by something she thought she saw outside. Faith covered her mouth, desperate not to make a sound. Whatever was moving in that building was getting closer. As the hours slipped deeper into the night, fear settled into the small dorm room like a living presence. Faith stood frozen by the door, unable to decide whether to check the hallway again or stay where she felt marginally safer. Her breath trembled, her thoughts racing. Through the peephole, the silhouette appeared once more, closer now, motionless, silent, as if waiting for the right moment to move. Faith stumbled back in panic, and Karina rushed to her, phone still in hand, desperate for anyone to answer her calls. The building remained silent. The shadow in the hallway seemed to drift unpredictably, caught only in fleeting glimpses, always near, yet never fully seen. Every new moment felt heavier than the last. Faith tried to calm herself, but her body shook uncontrollably. Karina checked the windows, the doors, the corners of the room, searching for any sign of danger or escape. Her fear was growing too, a fear she could no longer hide. Together, the two girls tried to gather their thoughts, whispering urgently, clinging to any sense of control. But each time Faith pressed her ear to the door, she felt it, a presence on the other side, something breathing in the same silence they were trapped in. The security camera footage showed the silhouette again, slowly making its way up the stairs, step by step, as if drawn toward their floor. Nothing about the figure felt human, only deliberate, patient, and terrifyingly quiet. Faith gasped and stepped away from the door. Karina backed away from the window, startled by something she thought she saw in the dark outside. Panic tightened around both of them, threatening to break their last bit of composure. They tried calling again. Still, no answer. Faith's heartbeat pounded in her ears. Karina paced the room, hands trembling, tears brimming in her eyes. They felt trapped, suspended in dread, unsure if leaving the room would save them or doom them. But the worst part was knowing the truth neither dared to say aloud. The silhouette wasn't wandering the dorm. It was coming for them. As the night thickened, the girls' room seemed to shrink around them. A sudden thud echoed from the hallway, and Faith froze in place, her breath catching in her throat. Something, or someone, was definitely out there. Karina crouched by the door, staring in horror as a shadow slid across the narrow strip of light beneath it. She covered her mouth with trembling fingers, afraid that even the sound of her breathing might give them away. When Faith turned toward her, she noticed something chilling on the floor, a faint smear, as if someone had dragged their fingers across the dust just outside. Nothing about it felt accidental. In the hallway, the silhouette leaned closer to their door, its shadow stretching unnaturally far. The metal handle twitched, moving only a few millimeters, but enough to send a jolt of terror through Faith. She stumbled back, knocking a book from the table. It hit the floor with a sharp crack, and for a moment, the world seemed to stop. Karina reacted instantly, lunging to switch off the lamp, plunging the room into a deeper, more suffocating darkness. Faith trembled, clutching her blanket, while Karina raised her phone to call for help again. But the line filled with strange static, as if something was interfering with the signal. Meanwhile, the figure outside approached the security camera. The feed glitched, then refocused, showing it a step closer than before. Faith crept to the window. The campus lights flickered, one by one, as though something was moving beneath them. Behind her, Karina noticed a new detail: a damp, smeared handprint on their door, fresh. Fear wrapped around them like a tightening rope. The silhouette stopped directly outside their room, a heavy, deliberate palm pressed against the door, making it quiver in its frame. They were no longer imagining it. The danger was real, and it was standing inches away. As the night deepened, the dorm room seemed to tighten around Faith and Karina. The lights flickered without warning, as if something or someone was disturbing the building's power. A scratching noise echoed from the hallway, sharp enough to freeze them where they stood. Karina knelt by the door, only to jerk back when a shadow glided across the strip of light beneath it. Faith watched, terrified, as a strange smear appeared near the threshold, like a fingerprint dragged across the floor. Outside, the silhouette leaned close, pressing its hands against the door. The handle twitched, then stopped. The silence that followed was somehow even more terrifying. A book fell from Faith's desk, echoing far too loudly in the darkness. Karina rushed to switch off the lamp, plunging the room into a trembling half-light. They clung to what little calm they had left. The silhouette in the hall vanished from view. Moments later, the security camera down the corridor flickered, catching the figure as it moved swiftly toward the stairwell. But the tension didn't lift. Faith and Karina sensed the danger wasn't gone, only shifting. Then suddenly, the quiet broke. A distant door slammed somewhere below them. Faith held her breath. Karina moved to the window, where flashing red and blue lights finally pierced the darkness. Police had arrived. Through the hallways, officers swept with flashlights, finding fresh, wet footprints and marks along the walls. The silhouette fled down a different stairwell just moments before they reached the girls' floor. Faith and Karina stayed together, shaking, as an officer knocked gently on their door. It was finally over, at least for the night. As dawn broke over the campus, the building stood eerily quiet. Police cars lined the parking lot, and investigators collected every trace the intruder left behind. Later that morning, a small memorial table appeared near the entrance of the dorm. Candles, flowers, and a soft portrait of Faith. A quiet tribute to a life full of light, and a place shadowed by the events of the night. And though the sun finally rose, the memory of what happened in those dark hours would never fade.